10 best UFC fighters who never won a championship. For over a decade, the UFC has dominated the fighting industry and established itself as the ultimate MMA organization. Having said that, winning the UFC title is the pinnacle of every fighter's career. But being a UFC champion is something that only a small percentage of the UFC roster will ever achieve. It means that you are the absolute best in your division and have overcome every challenge the UFC has thrown at you. Unfortunately, having 12 pounds of UFC gold wrapped around their waist will never happen for some fighters. This is not due to a lack of talent or effort, but rather to the fact that the acting champion was a better fighter on the night of the championship fight. If the fighter's circumstances had been slightly different, we might have seen them at the very top of their divisions. Hello everyone and welcome back to MMA Guru TV. Today we'll talk about some fighters who, despite being considered incredible talents and uncrowned kings, have not won a UFC championship for various reasons. But before we go any further, we'd like to request you subscribe to this channel and click the bell icon so you'll be kept updated on our future videos. So, let's begin! Number 1. Joseph Benavidez. The fighter who had 4 chances to win gold, Joseph Benavidez, is a prime example of a fighter who could have easily been champion under different circumstances. Benavidez first faced Demetrius Johnson for gold at UFC 152, where the Mighty Mouse won a split decision. He would win several fights before facing DJ again at UFC on Fox 9, but he would be KO'd in the first round. Benavidez was given the opportunity to compete for gold against Davison Figueiredo at UFC Fight Night 169, but he lost via TKO once more. The UFC rescheduled the fight due to controversy surrounding an accidental headbutt and Figueiredo's weight issues, but the fight would only end earlier with another Figgy win, leaving Benavidez with no hope of capturing the gold. At number 2, Dan Henderson. Dan Henderson is an intriguing entry on our list because 2 of his title fights occurred in quick succession. Henderson faced Quentin Jackson for the light heavyweight title at UFC 75, where he was defeated by Rampage via unanimous decision. He would then drop to middleweight to challenge Anderson Silva for his belt at UFC 82, but would be stopped in the second round by a rear naked choke. Henderson would go on to have a successful career in the UFC and Strikeforce, defeating fighters like Shogun Rua, Fedor Emelianenko, and Hector Lombard. Though he suffered numerous defeats along the way, his final fight would be against Michael Bisping at UFC 204, where Bisping would win a unanimous decision victory, effectively ending the veteran's chances of ever winning UFC gold. Number 3. Alexander Gustafsson. The first fight between Alexander Gustafsson and John Jones at UFC 165 was recently inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. The Mauler was set to face the dominant Jones for the light heavyweight title after winning 6 consecutive fights. The fight would be a difficult battle for both men as they both finished bloodied and bruised. Despite the fact that many fans believed Alexander had done enough to win, the decision would be red for Jones. Undisputed UFC! Gustafsson would fight Daniel Cormier for his title at UFC 192. Gustafsson, a contender for Fight of the Year, would lose another decision to the smaller man in DC. Gustafsson's fights with Jones and DC were so close that he could have easily been named champion in either. Gustafsson's final title fight would be a rematch with Jones at UFC 232, but this fight would end in a KO victory for Bones Jones. Number 4. Demian Maia. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialist has recently suffered back-to-back losses, but he was once at the top of both the welterweight and middleweight divisions. After submitting 5 of his 7 UFC opponents, Maia challenged Anderson Silva again at UFC 112 in Abu Dhabi. The result of his fight with Silva was a lackluster decision win for the Spider, as well as a performance that enraged the UFC brass. After losing to Chris Weidman at UFC on Fox 2, Maia dropped to welterweight, where he quickly amassed a 7-fight win streak before challenging champion Tyron Woodley at UFC 214. Another underwhelming performance in which he was on the losing end of a decision ended Maia's dream of becoming champion. Number 5 is Nick Diaz. The former Strikeforce champion had 2 chances to compete for gold, but fell short on both occasions. Diaz's first title fight was for the interim welterweight title against Carlos Condit at UFC 143. This fight was supposed to be between Diaz and George St. Pierre for the undisputed title, but GSP suffered a torn ACL and was forced to withdraw. Diaz and Condit would battle it out over 5 rounds, with a close decision going to Condit. Diaz would face GSP at UFC 158, where he would lose another decision. And number 6 is Nate Diaz. Given their success through their relentless fighting style, it's no surprise that the other Diaz brother is also on this list. Nate found himself fighting for UFC gold against Benson Henderson at UFC on Fox after a 3-fight win streak against Takanori Gomi, Donald Cerrone, and Jim Miller. Henderson defeated Nate by unanimous decision, effectively ending Nate's gold medal hopes. Nate would go on to win impressive fights against Gray Maynard and Michael Johnson before clashing with Conor McGregor and capturing the BMF title, which he would then lose to Jorge Masvidal. At number 7, Uriah Faber. The California Kid is widely regarded as one of the greatest bantamweights of all time. When the WEC was absorbed by the UFC, Uriah remained at the top of the division, knocking on the door 4 times for championship gold. The first time we saw Faber compete for gold was at UFC 132, where he lost by decision to rival Dominic Cruz. Uriah would step in on short notice to fight Renan Barão at UFC 149, losing another title fight by unanimous decision. Faber would continue his fighting career, winning 4 consecutive fights before taking on Barão for the second time at UFC 169. In this fight, Barão would TKO Faber in the first round. Faber's final shot for UFC gold came at UFC 199 when he faced Dominic Cruz again, and this time Cruz won by decision, repeating the outcome of their first fight. At number 8, Yoel Romero. The Soldier of God is possibly the most vexing entry on our list. He's challenged for UFC gold 4 times, but each time he fell short or sabotaged his chances of winning the belt. At UFC 213, he faced off against Robert Whittaker in a very close match that many viewers thought would be decided in the 5th round. Whittaker would win the decision over Romero with a takedown in the 5th. After Whittaker was forced out of competition due to injury, Romero would step in to challenge Luke Rockhold for the interim belt at UFC 221. Romero would KO Rockhold, but due to a missed weight cut, he was ineligible for the interim title. Romero would face Whittaker a second time for the undisputed title, but another weight cut issue would rule him out of contention. His last shot at UFC gold came against Israel Adesanya at UFC 248 in a lackluster main event, which Adesanya won. At number 9, Alistair Overeem. After titles in Dream, Glory, and Strikeforce, Overeem needed the UFC title to cement his position as the greatest heavyweight combat athlete of all time. Overeem found himself in a contenders match against Antonio Bigfoot Silva after finishing Brock Lesnar at UFC 141. With 2 rounds clearly in favor of the Demolition Man, fans expected Overeem to win and move 1 step closer to UFC gold. Bigfoot, on the other hand, would clip and finish a cocky Overeem, effectively ending any chance of fighting for a belt. Despite the defeat, Overeem would rebuild and go on an impressive run before facing Stipe Miocic at UFC 203. Overeem would land a left hand, knocking Stipe to the canvas. However, after a failed submission attempt, Stipe would recover and get the TKO finish, effectively ending the Demolition Man's hopes of UFC gold. And at number 10, Donald Cerrone. Donald Cowboy Cerrone has become a fan favorite during his long UFC career. Fans may have forgotten how successful Cerrone was leading up to his title fight against Rafael dos Anjos at UFC on Fox 17. Cerrone was on an 8-fight winning streak when he faced RDA, the last man to beat him. Donald would fall short against RDA in their match, finishing in 66 seconds. Cerrone would rebuild himself at welterweight after the loss, finishing 4 opponents in devastating fashion. Fans and Cerrone himself were looking forward to a title fight against title holder Tyron Woodley, but Cerrone fell short against Jorge Masvidal, and he's been inconsistent since. So there you have it, the top 10 best UFC fighters who never won a championship. This video is now coming to an end. We hope you had a good time with it. Please leave your response in the comments section. And remember to subscribe to our channel. And we look forward to seeing you in our next video.